华威大学国际预科部主任的 Babs 来做分享全程的话会用英文大家可以体验一下特殊的英式英文。那最后结束的时候呢，我们会请华威大学在台办事处英扬留学的主任黄月娥主任来跟各位做一个总结特别介绍在台办事处的一些特别的服务那如果各位同学有任何的提问的话呢欢迎可以留言在我们的这个聊天室里面。那我们会有我们的留学资深顾问来跟各位做线上的答复。那如果有时间的话，或许我们还会有 Q&A 那我们也会针对一些问题来做一个总体的答复那另外这个活动的话会有录影那如果说你来不及抄笔记，或者是一下子听不懂都没有关系，我们会有录影，到最后会分享录影的连结给各位。好，那我们由于时间的关系，我们就赶快把时间交给我们的 Babs. So, let's welcome our speaker, Warwick International Foundation Program Director, Babs.
Thank you. Hi, as Gary said, I'm Bab, so I'm from the Warwick International Foundation team, and we'll just be going through an overview of studying a foundation course in the UK. So first I'll explain to you where foundations fit in when it comes to the UK, and then I'll explain more about our particular foundation course. So next for me, please. So next again. So there's actually a number of different pathways to entering into UK education. Typically, students would be coming from international qualifications such as A-levels, which I'm sure some of you have heard about, or IBs. Those would be usually a 2-year program. Students can come directly into an undergraduate degree with those. And then some countries' qualifications allow them to come in straight directly with their year 12s. And then those students would have to complete a recognized pathway program, a foundation program, which is a bridge between high school and university, and in some cases to top up existing qualifications. So those are the 3 different ways students can come in next. So when it comes to Taiwan, students would be coming in through the bottom one. So your qualifications, even after completing grade 12, wouldn't be enough for that direct entry. You'd have to first complete a bridging program, which would be a foundation, and then you'd be able to go into undergraduate study. Next. And so this is kind of an illustration to give you an idea of where the IFP stands. So the IFP is considered as the same level as the IB diploma and A-levels. So students who actually study and complete those other 2 qualifications would not join the IFP because they'll be overqualified. So just to give you more of a visual to see where you stand in comparison to British students and other international students. So next. So one of the main things that students need to look for when actually trying to find a pathway is looking, I'm sure if you've looked online, there's actually a wide variety of providers. They're mainly providing for the UK, North America, and Australia. They're either delivered through partners, which are external companies such as Into and Study Group, or local schools, or they're in-house or run by the university, such as ourselves in King's. And they're usually a combination of English, some skills and academic content, and they're always typically a 1-year program with a number of different progression routes. One thing to be aware of when it comes to Warwick will only accept the Warwick International Foundation program. So students who take other foundations would not then be able to join our undergraduate degree. And that's mainly because of the quality of teaching. And as you kind of go through, you can see what our foundation offers, and that gives you a bit more of an idea of why we do that. Our foundation is also accepted by other top UK universities as well. So if you're not already aware more about Warwick itself, so Warwick is actually ranked 8th in the UK, and it's 62nd in the world as well. That's by the QS World Rankings. So our program then gets accepted by institutions such as UCL, LSE, King's as well do accept it. So that's something to also be aware of. Next, please. So as I said before, why do students then choose a foundation program? As it's either to top up that existing grades or to change academic direction, improving your English skill, or to prepare more specifically for a degree course at university. Next, and then for our foundation, students are using it to prepare specifically for a degree course at university. Next one for me. So, as I've said, there's quite a wide variety of different foundation programs. So it's really important when you're looking at those foundations to think carefully about where you wish to study in the future. So it's not just about the foundation, but it's about the degree. So some foundations are linked to specific universities, and then they don't allow progression into other universities. Others will allow you to progress anywhere. So you have to think about the ease of doing that. Do they help you with the process? That's something to think about. And then again, what are those progression opportunities? And by that, I mean, what degrees are then open when it comes to progression? And then are they accepted by all other universities, whatever foundation program you're studying? And then how much of the program is dedicated to the teaching of English? To be quite honest, a good foundation program would not be focusing largely on teaching you English language. You should actually join the program with a high enough English language proficiency. A foundation is mainly made for you to be learning the academic content and the skill content. And then also who's responsible for teaching. So do they hire external staff who don't necessarily understand the teaching quality of the university that you may be progressing into? Or are the staff part of the university? Do they have a history of teaching to the standard that's required? And then does it, of course, prepare you for your future degree? That's when you start to break down the modules and what do they mean. Next. So again, this is where it comes to then why, after everything I've said in regards to foundations in a general, why then would you choose the Warwick International Foundation program, or why is that a good option for students? Next. So when it comes to the IFP, we're actually one of the longest running foundation programs in the world. We've been running since 1983. So that's over 30 years now that we've been running. And it's all delivered at the University of Warwick by Warwick academics. So this is a university-run program with no external providers. And then we provide progression routes into pretty much most of the university's degree programs. And it's also considered, like I mentioned earlier, by all UK universities. And then we help students also apply for international universities. So students can finish this foundation program and then tell us that they want to move to a university in America, or they would like to move to university anywhere else, either in Europe and sometimes even back home. So we help them with that process. And then we have a tailored English provision, which I'll break down a bit more to kind of show how it's not teaching you English language. It's kind of supporting English in terms of academia. And then this is all grouped together according to the level of English students join the program with. Then we've also got a unique inquiry and research skills module, and then we've got 10 distinct academic program routes for students. Next, please. So what you'll be seeing now are about 10 different routes. So students would join our business management IFP. They can join finance, mathematics and statistics, economics, computer science, engineering, biological sciences and psychology, social science, law and politics, and arts and humanities. So all of these streams have a number of degree programs that they can progress into. It doesn't mean just because you study the business management stream, you could only go into business. That's not how it works. Typically, you've got over 20 degrees in each stream, and they all have different requirements, which we help students kind of figure out. And I'll break that down a little bit more again as we go through. Next. And so our IFP is split into 3. So we're focusing on your academic discipline, then your acquiring and research skills module, and then we've got the academic English, as I mentioned. So next. So first, when it comes to your academic disciplines, so this is where students are going to be specializing in their chosen field. So this is where you'll be studying only the modules related to your discipline. So for instance, if you're doing business management, you'd be doing modules related to business management. And our modules are We work with the Warwick Business School, if you've heard of them. So they're actually one of the top business schools in the world. So with Warwick Business School, we work alongside them to design our modules to fit students progressing into those business courses. They're all kind of designed, obviously, to give you that foundational understanding to your relevant degree study. You'd be looking at learning in lectures, seminars, and tutorials. So lectures, you'd be looking at having bigger class sizes, then your seminars and tutorials are smaller. We try and minimize and keep every class size to about 15 students as a maximum. This is because you need that one-to-one tuition with a teacher, and the more tailored it is, the easier it is for students to grasp the concepts and theories and be able to achieve their best results. For students studying more of our science degrees, they'll have laboratory sessions put in, so they'll have more practical sessions put in for their studies. And then all of these subjects are taught by specialists, so they're all subject specialists. Some of our lecturers teach on the foundation as well as on undergraduate and postgraduate degrees at the university. Some of them are also PhD fellows, so they're further specializing in their chosen degree area as well, which is key for students. And so you'd have those academic modules, which I'll give you a little bit more of an outline in a moment. Next, please. Oh, go back one. Just gone too far, thanks. And then, so outside of your, it's okay. Outside of your academic discipline, we then have inquiry and research skills. This is actually a module. And this is where you're putting everything you're kind of learning through your academic modules into practice. So that's when you're developing the analysis skills, and again, the inquiry and research skills, the title kind of tells you for itself. And this is where you'll be challenged to think differently and engage differently. So the way you research at an university level and the way you look for information at a university level is very different from how you do it in high school. And it's also different from how you do it based on your education system. So the UK is very much about practical study, and the University of Warwick itself is actually a research-based university. So as you go through the levels, you see that a lot of funding, so that's a lot of money is given to university for research purposes. So that's something that's where you're learning all these skills, because as you go through your degree, we start to do something called independent study. That's where in your first year, you have a lot of time with your teachers, that's contact time. And then in your second year, that contact time becomes less and you're expected to study for yourself. And then in your third year, that again becomes less and you're expected to study for yourself. And usually a degree culminates in a dissertation, which is a big research project. So you start learning that all the way from the foundation, so that at least as each step gets closer, you have a better understanding of being able to manage it, which is different to what typical A-level students would have, for example, because we don't really go into that type of depth. We learn it all within our first year. So you're a bit of a step ahead of normal UK students. And then this is all accommodating usually in some form of like a poster competition or a research project in students' final terms. So that in itself is one module, and that's where you're kind of getting used to the university style of teaching. Next. Then, as I mentioned, we have English for academic purposes. So this English is where you're actually building the tools necessary for undergraduate study. That's looking at analysis skills, presentation skills, debating, discussion, and academic writing. So as I said, you're not learning English language here, you're looking at the application of English language in your different study areas, because students, obviously, the English used in science courses and engineering courses is going to be different to the English used in business or law and politics. And so that's where students are kind of learning all of these skills before they then progress into the undergraduate study. So that's why that module is quite important. Also for this module, students use the grade for this module to meet any English requirements for their undergraduate degree program as well. So students are expected to still achieve high grades in this module. So that means they wouldn't need to take a new English test like an IELTS. And this is also accepted by other UK universities as well. So that's something that quite beneficial for students to know the combination of how English is used outside of just how we speak, because most English language tests, like an IELTS or a PTE academic, even a TOEFL, they're focused more on just can you speak the language, not really on your thorough application of the language, which is what this module will be doing. Next. So in addition to all of that, so you've got your academic discipline modules, then you add in your inquiry and research skills module, plus your academic English module. You've then also got a dedicated personal tutor. So a personal tutor is essentially your main contact point. They'll have a tutor group, so they'll have you plus another 6 students, and you pretty much meet them to talk about how you're getting on the program. If you need help with anything, if you need signposting, they're there for you throughout the whole program. And the tutor group is also there for you to kind of help you integrate and make friends with other members of other students. Your tutor group would be coming from different disciplines. So you may be from business, and the other tutees are from one of the other different streams as well, which is good. And then we have a school counselor, and that counselor helps you with all of your university undergrad applications and progression. So she's there pretty much again to help you with every step of the process and outline which universities work with offers, speak to universities on your behalf where possible as well, and help with alongside your personal tutor to kind of prepare you for that progression. Then we have a student staff liaison committee who meet every term, and what they are is each stream will nominate a student to be kind of like the spokesperson. They meet with the academic staff, they discuss the course and the content, and where possible, we try and make changes to the program based on student feedback, which are in real time. So if you guys have an issue in term 1, in term 2, we try and resolve that issue so that the program runs smoothly. So we try not to do it at the end of the year. We try and do it each term, as we know how important it is for students. Then we have additional free top-up classes. These classes are for progression, so some degree progressions. So some of the degrees that students want to go into for undergrad require specific exams, or such as a STEP or a GCSE. Most students wouldn't already have those qualifications. What we'll do is put on free classes to allow you to then take those exams. Again, our school counselor will help students with that process on how to take the exams, where to take them, and also to know which top-up class they need to attend. So that's all included alongside everything else that you're doing. Next. So what you're looking at is actually an example of one of our modules. So this is the business management IFP. Students study essentially 5 modules, which are the academic content. So if you remember, I told you you'd be doing your academic discipline modules, then you have the inquiry and research skills module, and English for academic purposes. So the way modules are divided, they are full course or half course. And what that means is a full course module means that module would be running for the whole entire year. So for the whole year, a student would study that one module. Half course modules mean that a student studies them typically for 1 term at a time. So what you're looking at here is global economy, which is the long bar, is a full course module. So a student would study that for the whole IFP year. Then they'll be doing all the other modules such as organizational behavior, business law, marketing, essential mathematics as half course modules. So in term 1, you could be doing global economics, organizational behavior, and business law as your 3 academic modules. You'd also have that inquiry and research skills module, which is a full course module, and English for academic purposes, which is a full course module. So you're doing about 5 modules per term. So just so you have a kind of an understanding of how your workload works. And then when you complete the program, we take an average of all of your individual scores. So we'd add up your score for every single module that you study, and we take an average overall score. That's how you get your final grades, or that's how you'd see your final grades come together. And then when it's coming to these modules and assessments, we don't run a system of where you take one final exam and that makes up your overall grade. Throughout the term, you'd be taking small portions of exams or presentations. It all depends on your lecturer on how they will choose to assess you, but you'd be able to accumulate all of your grades. So as you go through the program bit by bit, you're able to get an understanding of where you are by around about Christmas and how you're going to be doing on the program towards the end. So this is just a visual representation of how it would work for students. Next. So when it comes to the program, so all IFP students are guaranteed a conditional offer for their undergraduate studies at the University of Warwick, as long as you're progressing into a fully accepted degree program. So when you join, you have access to a students hub, and that students hub will list every single course available to you to apply to. It lists the entry requirements as well and the English requirement for all of those courses at the University of Warwick. So before you've even sat your first academic class, you know exactly what you need to go where you want to go at Warwick. So that's what you're then able to work towards, and it's guaranteed for that conditional offer. Then, as I've mentioned before, it's widely accepted by other UK universities, and it usually matches up that they would be either lower in terms of requirements than the University of Warwick, or around about the same if you're applying to another top-ranked university. Then, as I said, that in-house education counsellor, that school counsellor, she's the one who provides all that advice and guidance for progression, because we'll be doing everything through UCAS. So she talks to you through the UCAS process, university choices, and then career options. She also organizes a university fair. So it's usually within 2 weeks of joining the program. She invites about 30 top universities onto the Warwick campus to meet all of our students. So you meet them, you meet their representatives, you ask about their courses. So for instance, the University of Sheffield comes along, Manchester, Leeds, I think we've had UCL come along last year. So Imperial does come along on occasions as well. And then Warwick itself is present. So you've got around 30 top universities that you can discuss with all of your options before you even start your UCAS progress. And then when it comes to the university, all IFP students are considered pretty much the same as undergraduate students. So you're fully integrated into the university campus, student life, and you have access to everything on the university campus. Next. And then when it comes to delivery, so the IFP follows the academic calendar of our undergraduate program. So it's a September to June. Students this year would be joining in June 2021, and then they would be graduating around about the end of June / early July 2022. And you'd have all the same vacation periods. So we have vacations for Christmas, you have vacations for Easter, and then we've got like some smaller like reading weeks in between. And then all our students are participating in the Welcome Week. You've got all the clubs and societies. So we've got around about 64 sports clubs and 250 societies. So if you have an interest in something, pretty sure the university already has a club or society set up for it. And as you go through the university, if it doesn't exist, you're able to set it up yourself. So we have around about 4 hours per week of taught time per academic module. So if you remember, I said you have about 5 modules per term. So you're looking at 4 hours for those 5 modules, which would kind of give you around about 20 hours. But we generally have an extra hour. It depends for a top-up class or whichever reason. So you're looking at around about 21 hours of scheduled contact time per week. And then you've got to add self-study time as well onto those contact time as well. And then it's all delivered across the campus. So if you haven't looked at the University of Warwick before, which I'd always suggest you guys do have a virtual tour, which you can do from our website. We have 3 campuses, which are all side by side, Westwood, Main Campus, and Gibbet Hill. Our students would study between Westwood Campus and Main Campus, and so they're taught between those 2 campuses. And Westwood and Main Campus are about a 20-minute walk away from each other. There is a shuttle bus you can take, or you can get a bike or any other form of transport you want to kind of get you across the 2, but that's how it will be split up. And then we've got all of our on-campus accommodation located around those 3. And our students would live with other first-year undergraduate students. So you don't just live with IFP students, you're treated the same as an undergraduate. So you'd be living with other UK students and sometimes other international students as well. Next. And then when it comes to course entry criteria, the course is obviously not for students, as I mentioned, who have been unable to make the grades for that direct entry. We always look for the best candidates from whichever country they're coming from, and they have the ability to succeed on Warwick's courses. And the entry requirements do vary depending again on the education system you've studied. So typically we're looking for around about 70% when it comes to students from Taiwan. However, we are looking to change that slightly. So the best bet to do before submitting any of your applications, because we have an understanding that different school systems do grade students more harshly than others. And so what we'll do is we'll look at your transcripts first, and we can better advise you whether or not to submit an application or whether you'd be eligible for the program. Next. And the application process itself is actually quite simple. Everything's done through the IFP website. So our students actually have to pay an application assessment fee, which is £55. And then they'll submit their most recent school transcript. So if you're in your final year, you'd submit your term 1 transcripts if you have not completed. And then we ask to submit a personal statement. And there's specific guidelines for that personal statement, which are outlined on our website. Students have to answer 3 questions within 200 words per question. So they're quite specific questions. And it usually takes us 3 to 5 working days to respond back to you whether you have been able to obtain an offer or we need more information. And in some cases, students are called for academic interviews online. And certain courses, like our computer science course, students would have to do an online test, which is a computational thinking test. And then if you're successful, you receive your conditional offer until you meet the other requirements. And then all the deadlines and payments would vary again, depending on when you've made your application. But all of this is provided in your main documents. So I think I'll just pass on to Yuer because she's got some additional information that she wants to add in. But at the same time, if you have any questions, do type them into the chat. So Yuer, you're free to.
Thank you, Ray. 今天很高兴就是在这个线上跟大家说明一下有关于华外大学的国际大学预科课程。那刚刚也很谢谢贝特别介绍学校跟有关于这个课程。那由我来跟大家讲一下介绍一下，就是我们台湾同学就是从台湾过去之后的一些活动，还有就是有关于校友会的发展。因为华威大学其实它历史只有1965年成立的，所以它目前成立才历史来讲的话只有56岁。可是它这在短短的时间内超越其他英国的一些100年历史的学校，所以主要是以它的那个学校的作风是比较以国际化为导向，然后尤其是在产学合作这方面，它其实是在引导的一个地位。所以他的学历呢，其实是在那个国际上受到高度的肯定，那也是我们台湾教育部认可的一个英国大学。 那我们台湾其实毕业的校友，因为经过他的一个学校非常非常扎实的那种学术训练，所以他广受一些产官界各界的好评，而且我们校友在不管是在学界或者是在业界，他们的评价都还蛮高的，非常非常高。所以像我们目前的校友在政府机关单位，像我可以举例一下，像那个洪世章，他现在是那个科技部的人文社科研究院的司长，那在台湾经济研究院的负责国际处的副处长，也是我们华威大学的校友。那学术界的话，其实在台大、政大、清大还蛮多非常杰出的那个校友在担任他们的教职。那尤其要提到的是那个台科大目前的副校长，还有管理学院的院长周子全教授，他也是我们华威大学毕业的。那在业界就更多了，像我照片的左边的话，有一个校友，他现在在 Google， 在美国的 Google 任职，那右边的高伟崇，这是我们资深的校友，他现在是就是在英国的台商会的会长。那目前他自己有创立一些公司，在英国有创立公司，像 GCL UK， 所以他其实那目前也是那个英国的市议员。所以而且他非常热心，几乎每年都会回学校，或者是回台湾的话，会跟校友会碰面去分享一下他的一些学经历，还有就是如何在就是分享我们大中华区还有英国的一些求职的情况，所以协助我们一些就是后辈毕业的校友，他们在找工作可以更顺利。所以这个是有关于校友的发展的部分。那再来，这个是我们台湾同学会。我们台湾同学会其实我们现在看到的是几乎每年他们会办的一些活动，所以会包括迎新。所以学生如果到过去那边的话，我想台湾同学会是就是在国外一个最重要一个就是大家可以互相协助，如果真的有遇到一些困难的时候，所以我们会办一些迎新活动。那像我们刚刚讲说，校友他们也会跟新生就是有一些求职的分享。所以像大家看到这个海报的话，就是他们2017年的时候邀请在英国就职的校友回学校去分享。那我们最近就是前2个星期，他们也是有同学会也是举办了一个 career talk， 是一个线上的，因为疫情的关系，所以每年都会有这些包括过年的一些聚餐啊，还有就是像他们也会举行台湾的小吃节。就这些台湾同学呢，在英国之后呢，其实除了学术学到一些学术专长之外，另外一个他们会发挥非常经典的就是他们的煮饭的那个技能。所以很多从英国回台湾的话，他们其实在那段短短的可能1年或是2年或是3年的时间，他们几乎什么样的台湾的小吃他们都会煮齁。所以他们在那边会有这种台湾小吃节的一个活动。所以像这个是他们之前办的，他们自己做挂包、葱油饼啊、卤肉饭啊，甚至咸酥鸡，还有什么凤梨酥这些，然后尤其是珍珠奶茶，所以他们会利用那段时间，就是把这些台湾的小吃推广到英国的校园里面，所以受到非常非常大的欢迎。那在回国的时候呢，尤其是在8、9月的时候，因为大家都可能要决定要回台湾，那可能就是东西可能行李也在很多，所以同学会那边他们也会协助大家把那一些就是找一些海运公司，那大家那个海运的价格就可以压低一点。所以其实台湾同学会其实在work 来讲，其实是还有跟校友会其实连结还蛮深的，所以他们提供给一些同学的服务也非常非常多。所以这个是有关于校友跟同学会的一些发展。那刚刚贝贝有特别讲一下那个申请的流程，我说我这边再补充一下，就是 如果是台湾的高中生的话，就目前先提供高1到高3上学期的英文版的成绩单。那另外，如果是有老师的推荐信会建议，然后要写一份那个读书计划。那读书计划是针对要3个问题去回答，那总共只要写600个字其实就够了。那其他的东西就是补充一下那个护照。那最后还有英文的检定证明。那这个英文呢可以后补。所以我这边下一页就是一个申请的流程。所以我们台湾学生目前如果他们是先送先审制，所以你现在如果预计要在2021年的9月入学的话，其实现在这个时间点申请还是来得及的。所以你只要把我刚刚前面讲的一些必要的文件，除了英文之外，可以先把它准备好，那就可以送出申请。那你可以送到我们，因为我们那个英扬留学是Work 的算是在台办事处，所以你可以直接把文件送来我们这边，我们就会免费协助你申请，甚至帮你检查一些文件内容。那如果审核过的话，就是审核时间大概应该是1个月左右就可以收到所谓的条件式的入学许可。那后面的条件的话，就会要求你补，最后6月的时候要补毕业证书跟全学年的成绩单，还有就是你的雅思的证明。所以你的雅思可能就是要等到。你可以一直考，如果目前还没有的话，然后就考到最晚大概6月底的时候，那最后应该是说6月到8月或是9月初的时候，这段时间就是你可以赶快申请学校的宿舍，还有办理英签，那这样子你在9月就可以顺利出国，所以这个是整个申请的流程。好，那这个就是最后，如果说大家有什么问题的话，就欢迎在那个 chat box 那边留着。那这个是我学校那边，还有就是刚刚 Babe 的那个 email 地址。那在台湾的话，也非常欢迎大家跟我联络。那我也有 Line ID， 所以也欢迎大家透过那个 Line ID 跟我联络。OK， 好，谢谢。那我今天就到这边，就交给 Gary。
好，我们谢谢贝斯跟月儿啊，那黄主任啊，那想请问一下大家有什么问题吗？我这边的话是有一个简单的问题啦，就是想问说，这个 how many terms of the or semesters do the FP students need to study in Warwick? And say, is there any say like a winter break or summer break during their studies? Babes.
Yeah, so we call it 3-term system. So term 1, students are joining at the end of September. I think this year it's the 27th of September. It'll go on up until usually it's around about the 18th or so of December. That's term 1. Then they'll have a Christmas holiday in between. They come back in January, and then they'll have term 2, which would finish in March. Then they have an Easter holiday, and then they come back. Usually Easter holiday can be 3 to 5 weeks. It depends on how packed the academic year is. Then they'll come back again at the end of April, and then they'll study term 3, which is April till June.
Good.
So it's a system.
So that's different from the semester system in Taiwan.
Yes, slightly.
And by the way, the student who finished your FP program, do they still need to take IELTS or TOEFL in order to apply to progress into the regular university program?
So no, currently not for every university. So for Warwick, they don't need to take an IELTS or TOEFL because of the English for academic purposes module. So that module grade is what they'll be using. So when they get their offer from Warwick, it'll outline the grade they need to achieve overall in the IFP, then the grade they need to achieve in the English for academic purposes. So that's what they'll use to progress. Some other outside universities also accept that same module. We're still working because it's an introduction that we made this year. We're still working with other universities to help them understand the module better to accept it. If there are cases where students need an IELTS, they can either use the IELTS that they currently have, because an IELTS is valid for 2 years, and if they enter the IFP with the high IELTS, they can do that, or they can take a TOEFL. It's a lot easier once you've already studied in the UK, because universities accept a wider variety of English language tests, which students can all take while they're in the UK.
Good, thank you. And I think there is a student raised a question who has already got the conditional offer, and but he is wondering that he said, I've heard that your progression rate to Warwick is just about 1%. I'm wondering, is it true? Because this is quite concerning. So perhaps you can answer this question.
Yes, I can. No, that's not true. I'm not sure where you heard that. That's quite a startling statistic that someone has put out there. So how it works in progression. So progression is a student's choice. So you would be having 5 offers. Essentially, you've got your guaranteed one from Warwick, and then you have 4 others from 4 other choices. And then you whittle those offers down to 2. Which is your firm and insurance. So firm is the number 1 choice, insurance is your second choice. Then from those 2, you would then get your final results, and you can then choose, do I want to keep my firm as in my number 1 choice the same, or do I want to change? So progression is all up to a student. Typically, around about 35% of our students choose to stay at Warwick, and then others choose to go elsewhere. Last year, that number was much higher, so it varies from year to year. But because you've got a conditional offer, as long as you're tracking, you should receive your offer from Warwick. That's no problem. Progression is all up to you. On our program, less than 10% of our students would fail. And when I talk about failing, that's usually because they don't meet an English language requirement, or they fail a particular module. So that's really the only reason someone wouldn't be progressing from the IFP. I'm not sure where that 1% came from. So again, when we're talking about universities you can go into, our students pretty much go into all UK universities. So you've got Imperial. If you look on the Imperial website, it actually lists our foundation as an accepted program. As I said, UCL, LSE, we have students who go into Manchester, Leeds, Sheffield, students who've gone to St. Andrews, Bath, pretty much all top 10 universities. However, Oxford and Cambridge wouldn't be on that list. And that's because students need to make your application for Oxford by the 15th of October. Students have typically joined the IFP by the 27th of September. So that's only a 2-week period from joining the program to then submitting an Oxford application. You wouldn't then have all the documents ready in enough time for an Oxford application. So that's why we'd say that students don't go on to that program. There have been cases, we have had one student previously, however, that student prepared everything long before she joined the program. So it's slightly different, but yeah, all other universities are accepted.
Okay, very clear. So is it possible to apply to G5 universities? But because of the deadline issue, and Oxford and Cambridge, would I be able to accept, because their deadline would be too early to make application? Yeah. Okay, that's good. Yeah, and the progression rate. Yep, and the progression rate is higher, is about 75% instead of just 1%.
Yes,
and also so, just clear that lower than 10% the students fail the program, but about 75% the student can progress into Warwick. There's no problem.
So 75% is students progressing into other universities, then Warwick is usually 30 to 35%, because as I said, it's all a student's choice. So some have 50% of our students decide, you know what, I want to stay at Warwick, and then the others choose they want to try something else. So as well as on progression, as I said, we invite universities on campus, and we also take you to other universities. So our students for the pandemic went to Lancaster University, they saw the campus, they went to Manchester, because some students want a mixture of on campus, as in, so we're a campus that's quite closed off, and some want to experience a city-based learning. So then they go for their undergrad somewhere else. So that's just a slight difference.
Okay, that's very well. Very good, very good. The university provide lots of services to the students in order to help them progress into the further outstanding university successfully. That's wonderful. Any question? 还有任何问题吗？如果没有的话，我们的时间已经超过5分钟了。那我想说，我们就先停在这边。那有其他任何问题的话，欢迎可以跟我们华威大学在台办事处英扬留学公司来做进一步的接洽。那我们在这边非常感谢 Babs 跟黄主任给我们的分享。我们再次掌声鼓励。好，谢谢各位。
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
And say goodbye to everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks.
Have a nice day.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.